Welcome back to everybody. I know I start all my videos with welcome back. Why the hell not? Then again, just start it with whatever the heck it is, man. This channel is dedicated to the people that just are not throwing in the towel. That you're out for growth and you know the only thing that separates you from what your goals are is growing up, developing, maturing. This is the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears. Thank you for joining me in this. Uh, I know this is not the most polished production yet. Uh, this is it's just in its phase where it's at. It will continue to grow. The whole thing is just like today's subject is what has us distracted. You know, I see people with, and I know people, so many people with so much talent. It's incredibly impressive to me. And yet, the amount of things they've accomplished in their life it's limited. I mean, that's an argument for everybody. We all have limited results to a great degree because, hell, even if you really even knew, Elon Musk, you'd probably think his results are still limited if you actually got to sit and talk with the guy. Can't speak from direct, but, I can speak at least from my observations of everything. Uh, just incredibly impressed with that man. Well, hell, I'm impressed with people I don't really care much for either, too. Like Jeff Bezos, not one of my favorite people based off of some of his activism. But at the same time, doesn't mean that I devalue the fact that he's accomplished a lot, and I will study him absolutely. And not one that closes a history book or closes a book simply because somebody says that they're a bad person. Yeah, just because you read something that they've put out or you learn something that they've orchestrated doesn't make you adjacent to the horrors that somebody may have accomplished. you know that's, to me, that's an interesting trap to push people into. Is bad person, therefore don't learn anything from them. You can learn from everybody. uh, yeah. Anyway, it's kind of an interesting challenge that we all are faced with. But so, to the original point of this conversation, I think that's just more of a thought of the day: is why do we seem to be so incredibly driven to say if you're ever historically labeled as bad that, oh, you shouldn't learn from those people. Yeah, like, don't learn from the Nazis, don't learn from Hitler. Well, for me, I always say, well, we got a lot more. We got a lot of horrible people in history, but it doesn't mean you can't learn from them. Hitler was an excellent example of sociology. How do you take a depressed country and then turn them into a superpower? If you're not familiar with the history of Germany, especially after World War One, before World War Two, there's a lot to learn there. I'd be cautious to anybody tells you don't learn from them. Doesn't mean become a Nazi by any means. That's not exactly what happens to you anyway. It's not how it works. For the majority of people, they don't get radicalized just simply because they read literature about the historical events. But an interesting piece again for that is the study for sociology is how exactly was it, because Hitler was not the first guy that went up to the podium and started giving his speeches at the time whenever Germany was in its Great Depression. After World War One, I'm not a historian, by the way. I just have a high degree of curiosity in a lot of subjects. Post World War One, part of the agreement to the Treaty of World War One was that Germany would pay restitution to some of the countries that was impacted by Germany's involvement in World War One. And they agreed to it, but it sent the country into a depression, and people were absolutely frustrated. They didn't have television, stuff like that, so they couldn't retreat to their home, watch TV, and throw stuff at the screen, or go about whatever the popular you know news broadcast of the day. Nothing like that. They just had, I'm gonna go stand in the friggin' town square and listen to whoever's gonna go up and start talking. So, but a real pivotal thing that Hitler had done to bring himself to power was he knew that he needed to break the emotional state for the people that were in that area, but it wasn't to try to spread the concepts of hope through the idea of some sort of optimistic, um, positive movement thing, as if, you know, like the positive vibes only, no toxic people, that nonsense shit that we do today. No, it was more of it, and it wasn't like, love is our bond, and, nothing like that. That's not how he did it. What he did is he had people to break the emotional state for the people that were in the crowd, which was the masses. He had people that were working with him, knew his message high points and what to emotionally do at that time. So like cheering or yelling, or, if it was screaming something as anger, whatever it was to play into the speech through the emotional patterns of the expectation of the speech. So whenever he hit a high note in his speech about like something that was kind of, it was a emotional gainer for him in the way that he was talking, to help move the people from the inertia that they're experiencing through, you know, basically it was a living purgatory for them. They weren't doing anything, they weren't going anywhere, they were stuck, they were miserable. And then you had somebody who was listening to the speech, the same speech they were listening to, which the majority of the people would just sit there and just stare at whoever was speaking at the podium, because there wasn't the emotional piece that really got them excited enough to do anything. So they just sat there. Well, he started with his speeches, and it was pre-planned. They knew when to give the right emotional gesture to move people in the direction that the speech intended. It was a sociological experiment that he was incredibly good at. This is not admiration of what he accomplished as the atrocities. This is just the awareness of what he did with human beings. We can do this as well, but what it is that not the outcome. I don't want that. I don't want the destruction and the negatives, and the hardships, and the absolute genocide of what they were intending to accomplish. That's not what I mean. But I do mean that if you want to create something significant, you know, how to get other people involved. It's not, I'm not an advocate for manipulating, especially not manipulating with a malice intent, but to get people excited emotionally about something. We do it already. You do it in their speech patterns. When you're talking to somebody, you know when to interject the right type of emotional inflections in each one of the conversations that you have, based off of a conversation that you've practiced often, or one you feel connected with somebody and they're listening, and you have that inflection. So you have that takes place then. We do this. This is a human being thing. So it's just understand it, and then what can you do with it once you understand it, versus just let it happen to you and go, I don't know, life happens to me. This channel is dedicated to the people that are actually out to happen to life, not to have life happen to them. Life's going to happen to you no matter what. It's how you handle it. What do you do with it? How do you move yourself in the direction that you want to move in? You know? Um, yeah. Anyway, thought of the day. So today's conversation is, what the hell has us distracted? Why am I even going to say that people are distracted? Well, that's because I know so many people with amazing skill sets. Now, yes, with that does mean that they're very likely to have deficits in the big picture. There's a reason why there are very few people that one individual without any support other than themselves can become, half a billionaire or full-on billionaire. There's a reason why that there's really, I can't think of anybody that did that. Elon Musk didn't do that. He did it with a group of people, but it were people that saw his vision and they worked together with him. We do better when we're working with teams. Teams will fill in our areas of inefficiencies. They have better abilities in certain areas. You may be proficient, but you have a specific amount of time. You want somebody who's better than proficient and can focus specifically on the things that need to be focused on. If you want to create something great in life, you do have to enroll people in it in order to create that thing, to make it great. Just like the maturity project. I may be the father of this thing, but I'm not the only one in this. Helen is blowing along here in the background in case you guys hear it, which I'm fairly certain you can. Uh, but she's moving along, man. She's on her way. Largo's taking it. Now, we'll see how much of it we get. But anyway, so creating what we want to create, the majority of us, the big problems is, why do I say we're distracted? Let's go ahead and clarify that. So what it is I'll hear people tell me the things they want to accomplish. I will be able to assess the skill sets that they have with the proficiencies that they have, their attention span and their potentials for procrastination. I'll have all of that in front of me because I know how to find it with that person. Just sit and talk with them, get to know them. Now, this is just so that I can better help give a guidance, right? If I'm going to give advice, by the way, and people that watch this understand that I'm not an advocate for advice, because advice requires a lot of information most people don't have whenever they offer it. I do not want to give advice that is going to cause more problems than good. But I can give insights because insights don't require that I know as much about your current situation, your resources, your ability, your desire to accomplish, your resolve, your character traits, all of those things. I don't know those things. I don't know enough, but insights can give you something that shows that I have gone through something or somebody else has, whatever the insight is based on. And you can say somebody else has gone through this and you can see where those areas through that insight may be inefficient for you or lacking proficiency, and you can say, I need to learn this area. Now, the mature person would say, I need to learn this area, and they'll either, if they have the time available, so the resources say you should go this route yourself, then they'll go do it. They'll go learn it because now they see where they've been missing something. For the people that don't have the time, but they have the resources available, they will look for the person to facilitate that area, but also they're still going to try to learn from them as much as they can. But it will be dependent on the resource demands that they have. You know, they may need to be somewhere else. They don't need to mow their lawn. They need to hire somebody to mow their lawn. Well, that could be any function in your business or in your life experience or your goals. You may not have to mow the lawn of their goals, but it is a necessary part of your accomplishment. You don't want to build the mansion, but the lawn has never been touched. You know, it's like that. So when you're assessing procrastination or you're assessing something that is lacking, you look for what it is that causes that deficit. So as I speak to people, I'm looking for what's distracting them because the majority of the people that I talk to, and in my opinion, I don't know if I've ever run across somebody who can't be successful or cannot create something great, because I've seen things that come from the developmentally recessed, right, or whatever the politically correct term is, that we use now, that they're below the norm, right? They're in intellect, in functionality and abilities, they're below what the functioning norm consideration is. IQ, I want to say right now the IQ average is 104 or 106, something like that. And I could be wrong, and by all means, if you know the answer, put it in the comment section. But that's going to be considerable to the norm. Below average is going to be, I think the last time I looked into it was like 86 or below, I think is what it is. But yet there are people that have created, simplistic restaurants that marketed it based off of the fact that they had this disability and they're successful. Now, are they long-term successful? I don't know. I only gauged it based off of when I was available or able to assess it. That's not my priority to continuously follow and track that particular business, but I have come across several of them that have come up. I'm an advocate for everybody has value. Everybody does. We all fit together, right? If you really look at it, Jordan Peterson talks about, and I'll get back to the distraction aspects there in just a second, but Jordan Peterson talks about the value that the real value, not the value that's assessed by society based off of whatever, conclusions we've come to. Predominantly, academia has made us believe that doctors are more beneficial than sanitation workers. But, Jordan Peterson talks about, like, if you want to see how ineffective doctors are, get rid of sanitation workers. So you're going to find out they all need each other in order to actually make a functioning society. If you don't have sanitation workers, garbage and trash and sanitation issues become an issue. And it becomes a real problem in your life because now you're increasing the likelihood of everything that can cause ill health. If you don't have people picking up your garbage, you're increasing rodents and pests. Rodents and pests are called that for a reason. They damage what you consider to be desirable. They can damage your home, they can create illness and disease, things like that. Not just being unsightly and hitting the grotesque aspects of something, but it it all has a great degree of value. But the connecting point to doctors, by the way, if you do not like something, but yet it doesn't have an immediate sense of health impact, but you don't like something and you can't get rid of it. Let's say you just got, a pest, but the pest doesn't open you up to pathogens. It opens you up to the continuation of long-term stress. Well, stress itself generates more cortisol, caffeine, cortisol, stimulants of all types that get you into the sympathetic, or as a cortisol stimulator typically. Um, we get so much of that, but we get very little parasympathetic in melatonin, which melatonin is a healing agent or a healing hormone. Um, it's also sleep, because that's also healing. It's parasympathetic. We get a lot of, we don't get as much of that. So if you don't deal with the continuous stressor and nobody breaks the mindset that you have that makes that thing a stressor, if you can't do anything about it, right, in religion, they'll teach you to surrender it to God. Surrender that to God. You got nothing you can do about it. Stop stressing over it. Give it to God. He'll work it out. Don't do it yourself. Don't worry about it. Part of the problem that I've had in the past, especially when I was in my atheist phase, is that I was one of those people. I've been very, very geared towards responsibility. I'm not 100%. I'm geared towards responsibility, and I'm working on a regular basis to get further and further towards that 100%. Simply because on a conscious level, I'm 100% responsible. Okay, no, I'm not. 98% responsible. I won't tell you that one, but you can put a speculation in the comment section what I'm holding out on. But 98% responsible. But if I want to make a greater impact, I've got to be higher on the responsibility. But then there are the things that you're not aware in your foundation and the fundamentals of who you are, that is actually holding you back from being fully responsible. And you have to go through life practicing responsibility, especially radical responsibility. For me, has made a lot more ground and headway in this. So with that, it has given me a lot more access to something else, because I'm like, all right, well, there are definitely things that I'm not aware that is so built into my foundation that I'm not being responsible. Here's an example. My father, an amazing human being. I love my father. He's passed. He passed in 2006. But I have actively been rebuilding who he was in my life because I lived in a narrative that he was somebody else because of other people's relationships with my father that had influence on me. My mother, my brothers, people like that. Um, but in my adult life, after my father's passing, there was a lot of things that I learned and that I became privileged to, not just from learning from somebody else's, like a secret or something they knew, but also just knowing as a human being and knowing as a man and now as a father that there were still a lot of things that I didn't understand, but yet I adopted somebody else's argument about my father. This stuff has all added up to a value of who I believe I am in the world. So it is added to the contribution of, it is contributed to the foundation of who I am. In that foundation, I am finding things along the way that are not in integrity with who I am and who I've declared myself to be. And I have to correct that, but first I have to identify it, own it, then correct it. From these things, I get back to what's distracting me, because if you do not address these things, you will have every creative value that you can possibly muster up that will prevent you from making progress, but it has a justification that you don't need to look at it. It's a real interesting thing, and there is an education I've been privileged to that refers to that as the smart rat. The, your smart rat, to give you a definition of this, and it's not really my terminology, and I may come up with something else because I don't believe that's trademarked by the other company. I'm an advocate for the other company. I love what they do, um, but it's not me, and it's not what I'm doing. It's not the it is not the maturity project. Uh, they refer to it as a smart rat. A smart rat is always one step ahead of you. It will get to the cheese and the maize before you do. The smart rat is a smart rat because it is your subconscious mind that has all of the benefits of your conscious mind's awareness, and it still has the workings behind the scenes that you're not consciously aware of. So it is able to outsmart you because it is a very smart version of you that does not have all the things that are going on in your regular living life, the things that are telling you on a day-to-day basis where your attention is required. It doesn't have that stuff. It just has whatever your attachments are that is the desirable outcome that you're after, that may or may not be in other people's benefits, but ultimately it's in your benefit because that's where it's focused, because that's what it's supposed to focus on. It is a saboteur of change in your personality and your traits because it is set in its path, and it takes effort to overcome smart rat. I have a ridiculous smart rat that I think is on steroids and methamphetamines. It's way out of my league all the time because it's stronger and faster in its thinking on average. Or let's say methamphetamines may not be the right idea. It may be Adderall or something. Actually, it's probably Adderall and freaking steroids because this thing is ridiculous. Um, but then again, I'm not like saying that as a declaration that I'm not that smart either, because I'm just highly, highly curious, and it utilizes that curiosity for its benefit. But what I'm talking about is that's the subconscious you. It's not separate from you. It is you. It is just a very quick thinking, very, very effective thing. It's smart rat. The only way to really beat it that I've experienced myself is you just have to outsmart it. But if you don't know what it's up to, you good damn luck. You're gonna focus on something that doesn't matter by comparison to what's necessary to overcome it. So that's distraction, right? Because you're just focused on something else. You've got everything else going on. If you think about it, distractions. Let's get really specific to this topic. Distractions. You have relationship or marital distractions. If something doesn't seem spectrum 100% right, how far down that spectrum from 100% right according to what you think is good, healthy, and you and your partner are completely synchronized? How far down before that becomes a concern? The percentage is something you need to know for yourself. That percentage conceptually could be 50%. Reality, it's probably 75-80. You guys have got to be synchronized to a great degree. But it also depends. Like I am currently writing it's a maturity version of dating, and there's 4 different levels to that dating. Not types, it's levels. You have the friends with benefits, you have casual, you have long term, and you have power couple. The simplicity of this is that we are so distracted by everything else going on in our life, we want to just set it up to the set it and forget it mindset, right? We just want it to be like, you know what, this is the way everybody else does relationships. The common sense concepts or the inheritance versions of relationships. Nobody creates a relationship for power. Nobody creates a relationship with deep intention. So on the friends with benefits, create clarity. I'm putting together a workbook for that. It's all in one, If right now where you are in your life is you don't want to put a lot of effort into a relationship, friends with benefits, it's somebody that at least takes the genetic calling off of your distraction category, right? The whole like I need somebody to touch me intimately in a way that at least gives me the sensation of release so that I'm not stuck with desire all the time and being distracted by the fact that I haven't been touched by somebody else in a while. Friends with benefits, you'll understand friends with benefits means no real connection other than we have this agreement, we both find each other attractive enough, and we're willing to spend a little bit of time occasionally together. We're friendly, We do have common values that at least we can call each other friends, and then we have a benefit value to it. Casual, you know what? We're friends with benefits, but we see each other far more frequently, and we have a little bit more of an interest about each other than we would if we were just friends with benefits. Casual is you may still be open to seeing other people, whatever, but you at least have very clearly put your options and desires out on the front end, and it's with agreement. The other person is a part of it, but there's a workbook to do on both sides when it comes to that. So both people have to actually do the work on this. Don't I really strongly suggest if you do start taking up this particular work with a relationship workbook, I would not get involved in another person's relationship or with another person unless they've done that work with me. I wouldn't do it. You don't know enough and you're winging it, and it's going to create more distractions. You know, with this, at least you can say if it starts to become a distraction, you can point at it and say, we agreed that's not going to happen. If this doesn't get corrected, we got to stop. But let's work on correcting it if we can. So that's that part of it. The long-term relationship part of it is, hey, you know what? You may not want a power couple relationship. You may just want to say, you know what? Let's just pay our bills. Let's live our life. Let's have some fun. Let's go on vacations. You mean something to me. I really like you. I like you more than just dating. I want to make something meaningful with you. Marriage could be in that as well. Absolutely. The long term in this is simply just long term without necessarily trying to accomplish too much in life, because not everybody wants to do a whole lot in life. They just want to live and enjoy what life has to offer, and then they want to go. The power couple is the fourth category. And with those individuals, they want long term, but they want long term with somebody who's strategically thinking about things in life that they want to accomplish in such a way that their life has been significantly impacted by. And they work together on figuring out all the traits, every area, all 8 areas of maturity are in the power couple side, and they're working on developing each other, holding each other accountable, and supporting each other in the process, supporting the goals that they have and how they can contribute to each other so that no matter what, they are working together. Power couple does not mean to be for life. It could be, hey, until we reach a certain point, whatever. This inside of this education as well, the dating and the relationship education, is 6 month to 1 year checkups to make sure you're on the right track with your partner. There's a strategic aspect to it about when you see them, things like that. Everything is to first off create some clarity and some direction so that you can create a power direction. You can create something incredibly intentional when it comes to relationships, but also relationships will not be the thing that is overly distracting to you anymore. You have to start whittling down the things that are distracting. Relationships, highly distracting. I look on social media and there's not a day that goes by that I don't get 50% of the stuff that goes through my social media feed. And I know it's specialized to me and the algorithm and all that. But of everything that I see on social media, including when I talk to people, because I talk to people in an interview type of way when I want to learn something, and because I really don't want to be part of interrupting what they want to teach me and or share with me. So I teach it more. I have those conversations more like an interview. But I want to know what other people are experiencing so I can try to come up with the most desirable method to create the desirable outcome. You know, so I work diligently on this. I'm trying to knock down as many damn distractions as I possibly can, because distractions are something that you might get momentary benefit from or short-term benefit from, but when you look back at it 6 months to 1 year later, you say, what happened to me? What happened to these things? And it's just this continuation of distractions that just keep getting recycled back into the soil. They're not going anywhere. They're not getting out of the way so that you can have more bandwidth of thinking so you can continue to move forward. So you're knocking down distractions. Relationships a massive distraction for people because they're constantly thinking about it. If you think about it, like who doesn't want their private parts touched in a way that makes them feel good? It makes sense, right? How about somebody that wants to do it and you care about them and that they make it feel good and it feels good? That's making it even more distracting. Before you know it, it's like, how long has it been since that's happened to me? then more distracting, right? And before you know it, you're just daydreaming about stuff. You meet somebody, the UPS person drops something off, and you're like, damn, that UPS person's really got it going on. That's also, by the way, this is a funny thing, but that's probably a fairly consistent, reoccurring theme. UPS or FedEx. Oh, well, did you see they came in again? Oh my goodness. Whatever. But the point is that it's distracting, right? Other things are that you just don't know what the hell you want to do. So you're distracted by the fact you don't know what you want to do. You're overwhelmed at the fact you don't know what the hell you want to do. Distraction shows up this way, and how it's actually shown in hindsight is I don't know what the hell I've been doing. This much time has passed, and I can't believe that much time's passed. Even if it doesn't get directly connected to their goal, I promise you, if somebody says, I didn't realize how much time has passed, talk to them about their life goals. I guarantee you that you can get to a point that you'll be able to connect the fact that they're also going to be like, oh, hell, I haven't done a whole lot for my life goals either. Because they're past, they just had recognition of a fragment of the fact that they're not actually attributing what they need to for their life in order to feel fulfilled. Most of us are caught up in the game of paying our bills. I'm not saying don't pay your bills. Life gets pretty hard when you don't. But I am saying that the majority of people are caught up in that. This is an argument that is used politically because they say everybody who has actually accomplished something has done it by cheating, by doing it, some sort of corrupt way. I don't buy into that, by the way. That's probably far less common, and I would actually say it is far less common than it's used as an allegation. But the point of it is that people that don't understand, that live in a world of ignorance, looks for the low-hanging fruit for justification about why they haven't themselves done something. I didn't do anything because that person's corrupt. Why would I want money? Money is the root of all evil. Be careful with that shit. Because all that this stuff does is that it takes, when somebody says money's the root of all evil and you accept that idea, outcome of effort in business is often money, and then the business is growth, right? But is marked by money. How much profit did the company make? What was the gross profit and what was the net profit? What was your total expenses and how did you mitigate that year over year? It's really simple stuff. But if you think money is the root of all evil, you're going to demotivate yourself when it comes to the activities necessary to create more money, because it's going to haunt you in a way that makes you think that's bad. Why would I want to do that? It's going to hurt people. So be cautious of that, because money is not the root of all evil. It's just the relentless pursuit of power. Power on its own, you can pursue power, but you'll get to a certain point, you realize that you've been foolish in your efforts because you've hurt people, but you recognize it, and then you level off and you become less than a emperor, right, or some sort of dictator. You actually go more towards democratic rule because you're trying to make something for everybody to benefit from, not just a few or yourself alone. So anyway, these things line up because it's all a part of what is distracting us. Other things that distract us: you're not going to the gym enough, you don't like the way your body looks to you or the way you feel or your health, whatever. Physical maturity, there's a part of people's distractions. Community, how many people do you have to stave off the concepts of loneliness? By the way, you can know a shit ton of people, spend a lot of time with a whole bunch of people, and still feel lonely. Why? Because you don't have relationships of empathy, you don't have relationships of intimacy. And I don't mean intimacy as the physical intimacy, I mean just general. The real definition of intimacy is the connection with other people. N2UIC. Connection. With your intelligence or your cognitive aspects of you, the third area of maturity, you aren't doing much at all about moving yourself any further forward. You stopped where you are. Who knows how long you've been stuck there? You might be there for years at this point. You haven't done much other than experiential learning, which has been done through being in the field doing stuff, but you're really not putting yourself outside of your comfort zone. So you're going through a lot of the same lessons until you're forced to have to learn something new. You're not doing it willingly, or you're reactively learning. You're not proactively learning in that situation or scenario. So in the cognitive aspect, you're probably doing that too. That's going to make you feel like you're losing time, you're losing space, you're not making progress, you're distracted. Something else makes you go, it's not worth learning more right now. I've learned enough. I don't want to deal with it, whatever. Colleges are really famous about that, by the way, unfortunately, and I'm not the biggest advocate for modern academia. But some of the alternative educations and higher academia, I'm more of a fan of. Jordan Peterson's one of those people. If you don't like it, I don't care. Check out, downvote this video. I don't give a shit. I'm going to speak my mind. And I don't like what universities have done. I've been to modern universities. I've been to modern higher academia, and I can tell you right now, I am beyond disappointed in what they have created, especially the fields that I have interest in. And yeah, it really is a sad fate. All right. Other areas, emotions. If you are not dealing with the things that have emotionally upset you in the past, you put it and locked it away in a Pandora's box and you refuse to go back to look at it, guess what? That will be a distraction for you. You can say, I'm going to avoid it. I don't care. It will haunt you. You can be the most fortified in your position that it's never going to happen again. Guess what? It's going to happen again. You're going to be disarmed. You're going to go back to the age that you put it in the box. You put it in the box when you're 24 and you're 50. And now you're back in whatever it is in the emotional category. Let's say you're back in the dating world at 50. Well, you were 24 when you put it away. You found somebody that it let you live in such a way that you didn't feel like you had to activate that area of your development. It had the privilege of staying in Pandora's box. Then all of a sudden something happens, life circumstances, you're single again in your 50s, and now you're actually acting like a 24-year-old in your 50s. This is also where a lot of people have termed older women as cougars because they usually get married somewhere in their 20s. They go through their 30s into their 40s, and somewhere in their 40s they get their divorce, and then now they're actually going, I like, to have a good time. Younger men are attractive, and mama's got a lot of opportunities, got a nice house, whatever. She gets a lot of validation after pursuing a younger guy because also it makes her feel prettier because she's an older woman that is attracted by a younger guy, not realizing, the Miss Robinson thing where it's not necessarily, yeah, she's attractive, but there's something else about her, and that's the fact that she probably shouldn't be doing it. So there's a taboo element. And before you know it, you got all that stuff going on, and it's like, you know what? You did it to yourself. You locked it away whenever you were in your 20 somethings. I'm not saying you locked it away in a way that makes you a bad person. I'm saying you locked it away because why would you keep it active? You don't need to. Move on. You have this other thing. The thing is that if you're watching this and you're somewhere between, that age and 20 something and 50, and you've realized that you have kind of leveled off and you didn't address something in your 20s, well, guess what? This is the channel for you. Subscribe to it, and also send me over an email. I'll be happy to come up with something if I don't directly start working with you, but come up with some directions for you to at least give you some insights and some stuff to work on to help you break free of that pattern so that you're not part of that cliche. Believe me, I've spent a lot of time, when I say that in the maturity category, sexuality, which is the seventh area of maturity, I'm pretty damn mature there. Now, as far as like completely mature, sure, I've got more to learn there. Like, jealousy is an area that I recognize that that's something that is reducing my maturity. But the elements about sexuality and jealousy are not exclusive. There are other areas of maturity that support that concept of jealousy that cause problems. But I'm unraveling that. The beautiful thing is I'm unraveling it to be a teacher. So I'm unraveling it in the way of learning human behavior so I can bring it back to this and offer different insights to try to create a better outcome for you and for other people. I want something better for humanity. Tired of letting us all recycle every single life cycle where very little is carrying over to create the benefit for the long term. How many different generations have to go through relationship challenges before we finally get it right? You would think at this stage right now, after all the generations that have cycled through relationships, we would have it down. But we're more dysfunctional now than we've ever been, in my opinion. So what do we do about that? Hell, we're probably more dysfunctional now than we were back whenever people were wearing the big bouffant wigs and whatnot because they were trying to hide their syphilis, through the age of romance, whenever we were in, the high debutante royalty, concepts of living, which, by the way, that's why a lot of people wear like white makeup and the big crazy ass wigs and whatnot is syphilis. Look into that, by the way. It's actually pretty interesting. But that's the Romance era was marked by that. This is a lot of, it's kind of like 60s, but that was done in like, what was it, 1600, 15, 1600, something like that. I got to go back and look it up. I apologize about not being fully prepared. I wasn't expecting to talk about that today. So when you're dealing with distractions, yeah, that's in the sexuality. That's number seven. Um, and I've dealt with that a lot, actually. It's one of the reasons why I've matured so much in the sexuality category, but it's become to my detriment, and I'm aware of that now, and I'm openly shared that. So I'm not trying to develop myself in sexuality much more than I already have, moving like for any time in the near future, because it is one of my overemphasized areas of growth. Now, it has given me a great degree of privilege because people will share things with you in every single aspect of maturity when they open up to you in that way. Sure, I've got a lot of benefit out of it, so it's not a lost cause for what I've been up to, but at the same time, I've got a lot more that I need to do in areas that I personally need to develop in. So I'm not here to tell you I'm perfectly mature in every single area. There's eight of them. There's, there's other people that are involved or becoming involved that are those people that'll make the difference. So finance can easily be an area to distract you. Think of when you get a call from a debt collector. Everybody I know, even if it's just a ignore that call, there is a moment that they have an emotional shift. It's like, damn it, finances, son of a bitch. Money can be an issue. Also, your spending habits. Say you got plenty of money, you've got more than you actually need for your current lifestyle, but every time you turn around, you're buying stuff. Probably should look into that. So that can be an issue too. Committing to payments long term that are exceeding a specific amount of your income. Now, I am not the finance, I'm not the highest echelon of financial maturity. But I will say that if you're committing yourself, if you're already at 50% of your income and you're committing yourself to another payment of something that's going to push you to 60% of your income, what are you going to do if something that you're currently depending on your income disappears? For people that like, if there's a family where they've got, I have a friend of mine, she has a roommate, her husband and their family, they have a roommate. She's recently bought a car and she's got other things going on that obviously they have financial needs and they're making it, but they're pretty close. If the roommate moves out, how long before they're in real trouble? Well, it's justifiable. She needed a car, so she got a car. Now she has the insurance and the monthly payment. With the roommate, they're really still close, but they can make it work. If something happens to the roommate and that person leaves, then what? So on the financial maturity side of things, I'm not here to start throwing stones. I've got my own glass house there, and it is through my own. Hello, Helen. It's through my own recognition of what I've created that has me look at it and go, you know what? I'm not throwing stones. I promise you. I don't throw stones in any of this when it comes to the maturity project. What I do is I'm just I just want to share my understanding of things and hopefully makes a difference for you. Um, so then we have business. If you don't work or you do work, doesn't matter as much. It's where you spend your money is a business part of it. It's finance and business when it comes to maturity, where you spend your money, because that's reassuring the company of who you're buying from that their business practice or something you agree with. It's not just convenience that you buy from them, because a motivated buyer is an activist buyer to a lot of these companies. So you may not go to one of the other grocery stores, but you go to one that you do like, and it may be out of the way, but that's because you prefer their politics or their business ethics or whatever it is. But business itself has a role to be distracting for you too, because you may just be paying your bills, and your sole focus on business is just that. Yeah, um, I want to make more money, so I want to get promoted. I don't want to get promoted because I want the skill growth. I don't want the I get promoted because I get the opportunity to really move along in a career. I just want the money. Because I definitely know people that have only wanted to get promoted because that's the access to the next raise. Not so much about the responsibility that comes with it or the growth that comes with it. Which, by the way, responsibility and growth, you can't separate the two. The more responsible you are, the more you'll grow. Simple. So yeah, you got that. I've put plenty of people that way. So with business, that can be distracting too if you're not in control of it. If you want to get promoted but you're not doing it for your growth, you're just doing it for finance. That's distracting. Okay, getting caught up with the drama at work and the politics at work, you're probably not going to grow much from that either. So that can be a distraction, and it bleeds into other parts of your life. So you can't even focus because you're like, damn it, I just got a call from my boss, or I got a call from somebody I thought was my boss for a second. I realized it's not, but now I'm thinking about work. It's distracting. So, we've already gone over sexuality. Purpose is the eighth area. Purpose is spirituality. If your life doesn't feel like it has meaning to you, if it were to end right now, what is it that people remember you for? And is that aligned with makes you feel like your life had value? So you could say people remember me for being funny, but that doesn't mean that to you that creates any validation. You may look at it and be like, yeah, people remember me for being funny. So what? What does that mean in the greater scheme of life? Sure, somebody else may go off and may create something great because you were involved in their life and you used humor at the timelines that they had interacted with you, and they went off and created something that doesn't even mean that they created something funny. You just may have been the comic relief for them to at least be able to keep focused. Once you shed off whatever it was that they were trying to shake, your humor created the opportunity for them to shake it off. And then they ended up with, hey, I was free enough to think about, quantum physics, or, rocket propulsion through the atmosphere, or whatever it is. It's you may have been able to give them that. You're not going to be able to easily qualify your life, especially if it's over tomorrow. It's more of the question of, at the end of the day, is what you did today meaningful for the greater world and the greater reality? That's it. So spirituality or purpose. What's your purpose? For me, spirituality is purpose. Oh, but if you use religion to get there, that's fine. You can find your purpose through religion. You just use the rails that religion provides, and you figure out and you'll find what your purpose is. Now, initially, your purpose may feel like something, and then you give yourself to it. You really put in your effort. But then somewhere along the line, you change direction. The other thing wasn't your purpose, but it was a stepping stone towards it. And it likely has a lot to contribute to what it is that you realized. Or it might have disqualified a lot in order for you to pursue what you realized is more meaningful to you. Purpose is meaningful. How meaningful is something? That's why I tell you at the end of the video, share this person with somebody in your life you want to create a meaningful conversation with. That's one of the best ways to change your life. Even if the other person doesn't get overly involved, you still spoke it, and that can change things versus just letting it bump around your head. It's too easy to forget stuff when you do that. So that's the 8 areas of maturity when it comes to the potential for it to distract you. And it's common. It happens all the damn time. The beautiful thing is that we have the ability to create something different. You right now, you can create something different and beautiful. Relationships happen. Relationships end. People come into your life and they leave your life. People will tell you, I'm not going anywhere, and they will tell you so many times, they'll reassure you, and then they leave. There are a lot of things that happen. That does not mean that it's validation to stop your life. You might need a minute to lick your wounds. You got to heal yourself. But how long do you think it really takes to heal? Do something, no matter what. Even if you have to retract down to doing nothing more than reading a couple of pages out of a book every night. Don't give up on you. Stay active. Keep working. Keep doing it, man. Because there are things that reinforce this, by the way, moving into the habits aspect of it, but I'll end the video here shortly. So there is the habits that create this, right? When you think a certain way, that becomes the way that you naturally think when you're dealing with something. You figure it out one time and it seems successful enough, and then you start thinking that way. You're creating a habit of thinking. You could say, well, when I talk about things this way, it seems to calm people down, so therefore that makes sense. We should just leave it as it is here. That'll create a habit of thinking in that way that gets you to the point where you're like, this is where I should leave it. I should leave it here. Because you have to, what is here? Well, here has a path to get there. Whether you are aware of that path or not doesn't mean that it isn't there. It just means that you don't have the level of awareness of the way you think in order to get that to that point. So when you're wanting to really make change, you have to look at the habits that hold things in place. It's not just the physical habits of something, it's also the thinking habits of something. Because when you think a certain way, you'll create a pathway. It's called neuroplasticity. You'll create a pathway of thinking. When you create that pathway of thinking, the more you think that way, the more that pathway gets energized, which means there's more resources going to make it easier to get to that thinking model. That thinking model can get to the point that it becomes the conclusions of regular thoughts. That does not mean that it has utility for all thoughts. It's just some thoughts. You'll also have the ability to graph off of that into other things or other categories of thinking and other mechanics of thinking, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be successful when you graph off into it. I don't know if that's too esoteric. It very well can be. But when you think of a certain thing so long in so many different ways, it's like creating the details to something that makes you understand it more. Coca-Cola. Well, if you just look at it from the outside, you've never tasted it before, you see the soda, you see the bottle, can or bottle, we'll just use a bottle analogy or example here, and then you see the color, you see the writing, you see the font, you see, the overall, everything about the bottle, clear, brown, red, white, it's pretty simple, and then the black writing if they have black writing on it. Oh, so you have that. Well, you have the cap that's red, the seal part of it's red, then you have the label itself red and white with, obviously again it goes in black, and then you have the brown or black or the darker color that is the actual substance inside of the Coca-Cola. You've never tasted it, you don't know how to associate taste to it, you just know that other people have tasted it, you know more about it from the outside, but never tried it. You see commercials, you have information that teaches you about it, you've seen pricing for it, you've got all this stuff, but you never tried it. Well, then at some point in time you try it. Great, you tried it. Now you have all that previous data and you have the association with the way it tastes. Okay, still not a bad thing. It's just a thing. Now you've tried it. Well, let's say if you don't have a healthy restriction on it, you can overconsume of it. Then you start gaining weight. What if it becomes something that's habit formed? Well, now you're regularly reaching to that thing. Instead of water, you're drinking soda. What happens to the body with that? If you don't know, it's worth looking up. High fructose corn syrup versus regular sugar versus artificials. Which one are the more ideals? Not here to tell you that, although I am holistically educated and I can go into a very long conversation about that to give you the information necessary to make the right decisions for yourself. But I'm not going to tell you for you because that's up to you. You might need that substance right now to help get you off of something else or to give you a direction that gives you a better footing so you have a better foundation. Who knows? I'm not a granola warrior. I'm not a firebrand. I'm not a health advocate to the point of being an activist. Not that, but I am more of, hey, give you the right information, let you make the right decisions. So you have that substance in the bottle, Coca-Cola. You try it, you taste it, you drink it regularly, it becomes part of your life, and before you know it, I'm not saying just Coca-Cola is to pick on them, but just soda in general, and then your body gets overwhelmed with insulin to the point that now you become resistant and you go into type 2 diabetes. if you don't have the awareness of what a healthy, active lifestyle can do in order to combat that, and then changing the habits necessary that are supporting the need for though having that Coca-Cola in your life. Again, Coca-Cola is just taking the brunt of this. It's Pepsi, it's all the sodas. Hell, you can get into the teas and the other drinks that you get that are mass produced. High fructose corn syrup is a very common culprit of this. Also, aspartame or the sucralose, the artificial sweeteners. Not an advocate at all for those. And I've got plenty of reason for that, and I can definitely hold the conversation on that. But for the time being, just know that I'm not an advocate for it. Well, you've started to build a profile on that thing. That thing has now become something known to you. That thing is now linking itself to habits that are supported, right? You're thirsty, you reach for a soda. If you're feeling hungry, you might reach for the soda. Whatever it is, because it just seems like it's part of the process. You have the soda plus you have a burger and fries. Whatever it is, that builds a physical habit with a nutritional aspect, the sensation of food, the taste of food, all of that, and it all fits into, I'm not only hungry, I'm having a tough day. And you have these habits that are built around it. And the next thing you know, that habit is now harder to break, and that habit requires real thought in order to overcome it, which can be, you've been distracted and got you there. Now you need to be not distracted and get you out of there. So, all right. So distractions are a big thing. Incomplete habits. If you want to really make some changes, start working on those habits and then retrain yourself. It doesn't mean never have it. It does mean that you put it into a category that reduces the negative impacts on you. But work your way there, one step at a time, 1% on a daily basis. In a year, your life is completely different. That's how many days are in a year. If you're doing 1%, it's a pretty big change for you. Mind you, though, there are 8 areas to change, so it's not one area, 365, percent change, 1% on a daily basis, but it's 8 areas that all have their own values. Some of them are actually overlapping, so you address one, you get several. Uh, all right. Fear of success is another problem that people have whenever it comes to what's distracting. I don't know. I can tell you I know what it's like to fail, because fear of failure is a regular thing, but it happens on a daily basis. You know what it's like to fail, and you know what it's like to have fear of failure. You also know what it's like to have fear of success, but you don't necessarily understand that that's actually a fear of success. You put it into the category of fear of failure because it feels the same. You don't know what it's like to succeed. And when you do succeed, it's scary because you don't know what's on the other side of it. You're like, I don't, for the longest time in relationships, again, since sexuality is such a developed area for me, and that's also relationships, all those, it all has a contribution into that category. I didn't know what it was like to have a meaningful relationship outside of being the nice guy whenever I was in my teen years. Really sweet, nice guy. Didn't know what it was like to have women that wanted me. I knew what it was like to work really diligently to show that I was a guy that women wanted to be with. So focused more on being higher value because I didn't have the physical attributes that my peers did. Not that I was horrible or ridiculously ugly, but I was overweight and, I was a nice guy. I put a lot of effort into developing that, but it became its own distraction. Uh, I knew it was like to fail at being attractive. I didn't know what it was like to be successful at being attractive. And I mean attractive on multiple levels. And it really created a great degree of being disarmed in my experience in life. Because it's like, I don't know what it's like. And then having people go, no, you're a very good looking man. Like, I still feel like the ugly duckling. To have women attracted to me, I didn't know what to do with that. So whenever I would talk to women, they found themselves attracted to me, they'd flirt with me. I also find it very challenging to understand whatever I'm being flirted with. It's just because of the way that I see the world. I don't, like, I regularly default that I'm not a very attractive person. Ugly duckling syndrome. Not saying I'm a 10, by the way. Definitely don't think that. But the reality is just that I had a fear of succeeding because I didn't know what success looked like. And whenever it did show up, there's this weird, uncomfortable adjustment to go, oh, I am attractive. And it's still a challenge for me because I don't want to walk around. I'm not out to be anything other than humble. But there's just a lot to it. So anyway, yeah. So the basic simplicity of this, and this is probably the shortest portion of this entire video. What does it take to change? Small pieces, just small pieces. If you don't know something, get a book on it. Devote yourself to reading a couple of pages a night. I would say 1 hour, 5 minutes. I'm sorry, 5 pages a night is definitely a good target to shoot for. But if you're not familiar with reading and 5 pages is too much, go for 1 page a night, 2 pages. Push yourself to where you feel just slightly uncomfortable, but you don't want, especially when you're reading something, you don't want to read past comprehension, or cognitive level of awareness. Because what happens is that you'll start task reading and you won't pay attention to what you are reading. So something as simple as, I don't know what other activities to do. I'm not sure what to do. Get a book. Start subscribing to podcasts or channels like this on YouTube, like Mind and Maturity Project. Uh, Devote yourself to 1% of one to change on a daily basis. It's easy enough. Like mine is, I read 6 pages a night. That's an ongoing, consistent goal of mine, and it's in subjects that I want to grow in. I don't read romance. I don't read nonfiction. Uh, I'm sorry, I don't read fiction. I read nonfiction only. I read only, like, if it's beneficial for growth in business or area for maturity. I don't do a lot in fantasy. I have television for that, and movies and other stuff like that. I still don't do a whole lot of it, is by comparison to what I used to do. I don't really spend a lot of time with music, although I do really enjoy music. I don't spend a lot of time with it because I have other things that I want to listen to. I use music for emotional support often. But what type of emotional support? If I want to get pumped up and motivated, typically I'll listen to motivation videos. But anyway, but I might slip on, put on some Corn or Slipknot or something, because my teen years were through the 90s, or I might go through the 80s. It just depends. But often I do find myself listening to something educational and instead. So, all right. Simple habits. Change it 1% on a daily basis. It will change your life. I promise you. It's just not a fast approach, but this is not a get rich quick. This is build your character. You do not want to have a get quick rich on your character. You don't want to have a quick result mindset on character. Don't. It is very unlikely. You have way too much history that will prevent you from getting there. All right, that's it for today. This is the Maturity Project. I am your host, Chad Everett Brochures. Please share this video with someone in your life that you want to make change with, something meaningful. Okay? Start a conversation that you can explore with that person. You never know, they might be a growth partner for you. Growth partners are awesome to have, like legit growth partners. If you have somebody get started with you and then they fall off, don't beat yourself up over it. That's not uncommon. It's practice. Keep going. You're going to find somebody that really does synchronize with you. Same thing goes whenever you get a gym buddy. There's plenty of them that are all gung-ho and then they fall off after 2 months or 3 months. It's fine. If you want to have meaningful relationships that really do make a difference for you and also for the other person, and know that it's not just about swapping body fluids and all that, look into my Maturity Dating Project. I will have a better name for it in time. I'm still writing it, but stay tuned. I'm going to start doing phone calls. I don't think it'll be once a week. I don't know, it might be. I'll come up with a timeline. It's like how frequent these phone calls take place. It'll be Q&A, and then I'll talk about whatever is preferable in the dating guide. And really just a lot of it will be answering questions, but it's to help make the dating guide more effective. 4 different areas of dating, from friends with benefits to casual to long-term to power couple. It really is designed to give you the most rewarding experience in relationships. So who you're with right now may not be the person you're with forever, but you can still do something meaningful with them. Just clarity is going to be so damn powerful. All right. The path to hell is paved with good intentions, folks. The people that go through this education are dedicated not to create another path to hell. It is the difference between doing this just, like, I'm going to create something great in life, and then it turns in that it becomes a problem to society. starts all the good intentions, ends up in a less than desirable place. Not enough strategy in that. You want to prevent it, you also need to understand who your successors are going to be, who the people that are downstream of your effort, and all of that. So let's do this thing together. Let's get up to something great. This is the Maturity Project. I'm your host, Chad Everett Broshears. Let's do something. Let's do it together. Join the community. Comment in the comments section. People want to hear, Susan, you're doing great, by the way. Continue it, please. So until next time, let's get after it. All right, guys. See ya.